Hey everyone, this is Brian. In lieu of releasing a regular episode like we would typically be doing today, Zach and I both agreed that we wanted to take some time to recommend a few Black history podcasts, both podcasts about Black history and history podcasts hosted or co-hosted by Black creators, and sort of take some time to step back. A lot of people in the community from which we pull our guests have been heavily invested in protesting and taking action in other ways. We can't thank you enough for doing that and for stepping up. And to anyone who is listening who has been out or is planning on going out, please stay safe, both from the police and from the virus and just everything in general. And again, thank you for being out there. So real quick, wanted to mention a few podcasts. I'll start off with like the big one that none of these probably need our recommendation, let's face it. But of course, the big one is 1619. The podcast arm of the New York Times 1619 Project, which went up last year to mark the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved person in North America. The series itself is 6 episodes long. It's very, very well put together, as are the print components for that series. So check that out. It's just called 1619. And then in terms of podcasts you may not have heard of, because that is a pretty big one. Start off with Black History Buff, which is a really great podcast. It's a British host, and it's got really great editing and composition. I don't know if that's a big thing for you since you listen to us, but and it's definitely it's got its history through like a storytelling lens, and I really like that sort of thing. So check that out, Black History Buff. Garbled Twistery is sort of like the opposite end of the spectrum, where Black History Buff is, longer episodes. Garbled Twistery is like very short, bite-sized episodes, less than 10 minutes, and it's like I'm gonna say conversational. It's one host, but it's still like conversational. It's very fun. There's still like Black History Buff. There's a lot of like sound effects work in the background used to totally different effect. So yeah, pair those two for like two very good podcasts that are doing like totally opposite things. Another one, Asterisk History. So it's by 2 women, Jay and Alex. It's a history podcast that is also fun and comedic. Of the ones I'm going to list, it's, I'll say, probably the closest in tone to what we do. So very fun, much better also. But it's focused on the stories of women from across different cultures. So check that out, Asterisk History. Asterisk is written out. They're currently waiting to debut their 3rd season, obviously because of the pandemic. And one of the hosts got married, but look for that. And they have all their back episodes available. Those are like the really like dedicated history podcasts I want to recommend. There's another one that is sort of a history and food. It's a food podcast with elements of history. And it's called Point of Origin. It's made by Whetstone Magazine, which is a food magazine published by people of color, which if you're also looking to subscribe to something other than Bon Appetit after everything that became very public this week, check them out. They have a lot of conversations with chefs, and they look into sort of, like the name implies, the origins of foods. Their latest episode is on the resurgence in popularity of sort of indigenous diets in America, and different ways people can respect that as an element of cultural heritage without turning it into a food trend. I'm a food person as well as a history person, so this one really appeals to me. Just want to throw that in there in case it appeals to you. And then another one that is not a history podcast is Bag Ladies with a Z at the end. At the end, obviously. Where else would it be? Which is hosted by 2 women. The podcast is built around the idea of sort of vulnerability and letting go of your baggage, which is hence the name. but it also contains discussions of current events and culture. And I think any discussion of people, especially people of color, sort of being vulnerable is important to listen to right now. Especially if you are a white listener. So those are the ones I really wanted to recommend. I don't know. I just wanted to say a few words. I'm recording this the day before it's getting posted, and it's been 2 solid weeks of protests and outcry after the murder of George Floyd. We recorded our last episode basically after the first night of demonstrations here in Denver. And I mean, a lot has happened since then. If you think it's been shocking to see, imagine living with it your whole life, is what I'll say. There are good things happening in the protests and as a result of the protests, and we have to keep pushing. I think a lot of people up till now have sort of been talking about how awful 2020 has been, and obviously there's been horrible things that led to this moment, but to me, the protests themselves, even though they were triggered by awfulness and crimes and violence against Black people in this country, the protests themselves are the most heartening thing about this year to me. So again, if you are out there, keep getting out there. If you can't be out there and you've been donating, if you've been signing petitions, if you've been talking to people in your life to try to get them to see that Black Lives Matter, keep doing it.